Hi guys, it's Olivia and welcome back to my channel. So today it's the long-awaited video of which character would make the best roommate. I'm so sorry this has taken me so long to film. I was sick most of last week and I lost my voice on Friday, but it is back. I am back. It's great. And I was also traveling this weekend, so I couldn't film anything. So now we're back. So sorry this took me so long. And let's begin. So basically in this video I will only be focusing on my 5 main characters, which are Mabel, Atlas, Persephone, Harold, and Trinity. The only reason I'm not doing side characters is because I feel like it would be way too much for this video. But if you guys want a part 2 with all the side characters like Nathan, Clover, Avalon, Franz, all them, put it down in the comments and I'll make a part 2. So basically, how this video is going to be set up is I'm going to be talking about the pros of the character, which are all like the good things I feel like they would be in a roommate, and then the cons. And then you get to come up with your own decision pretty much on who would make the best roommate based on your preferences and personality. Let me know what you think down in the comments, because I might have a completely different opinion than you do. Because, you know, different people. Fun stuff. Alright, so first of all, we have Mabel. So I feel like Mabel would be like one of the best roommates, because number one, she isn't that traumatized, so you're not really, okay, she is still traumatized, I shouldn't have said that, but she's traumatized, but I feel like in a less severe way than the other characters I'm going to mention. So she is very sweet, she can live mostly a normal life. I feel like she'd be really into skincare, so you might walk in on her doing some face mask or something randomly, which I find funny, like, you know. She's very introverted, which I feel like is a good thing, because they're not going to try and drag me out to, like, a party or something, which I wouldn't want to go, but, yeah, so she wouldn't try to drag you out places. She's usually very kind, very sweet. If she notices something is down, she'll probably try and do something about it, like, she'll, like, buy gifts or something for you if you're not doing well, or if you went through a breakup or something. She's just, like, a very sweet person, I think, as a character, and also just, you know, as a roommate. Yeah, and I feel like she wouldn't, you know, leave the house much, which I guess could also be a con. She's kind of a homebody, so she would either A, like, stay in the house all the time, only leaving for work, or B, like, go out to hang out with some friends. It's kind of the same, too, and it's the same way with, like, her friends. Like, if she invites friends over, they'll stay for a couple hours and they leave, and they're usually, like, very sweet, I feel like. So, I guess that's kind of, and also the pros. Like, she's very kind, she's very sweet, she's very, you know, like, homebody. That's, like, more of a pro for me. I don't know if it's one for you, but that's more of a pro for me. And she usually, notices when something is up and tries to do something, like, kind of anonymously about it, if you get what I mean. Like, if she gives you a gift, she's not going to tell you it was her, but you'll know it was her because of other things, type of thing. So, yeah, so now let's get to the cons. So one of the big cons with Mabel is that she has panic attacks. I don't know if this is a pro. This is not a pro. Definitely not a pro. But she has very bad panic attacks. So sometimes, like, she'll need someone there to help calm her down. Which, if you're not up for that, then don't room with Mabel. She's all very panicky, especially after him being kidnapped. But she's, you know, she's very wary of her surroundings as well. Also, after being kidnapped and brought to Pertho, I feel like that would do things to a person. So, she would, you know, be really nervous and scared most of the time. That's, like, her main emotion. And, then, yeah, so that's, like, a big con. So, if you cannot deal with that, do not have Mabel as a roommate. Also, another thing is that she doesn't really communicate. And what I mean by that is, like, if she has a problem, she's not going to tell you for a while, because she's very passive and she's not very confrontational. So it's very hard for her to come to you with issues. So take with that what you will. Which I guess that's also not a very good quality, because then issues can, like, she'll let it fester. And then when it finally reaches the breaking point, she won't lash out, but she'll be like, hey, this thing has been bothering me for like 4 months or something. Could you please stop it? And then you would be like, why didn't you tell me this 4 months ago? But yeah, that's Mabel pretty much in a nutshell. So I feel like she would be a pretty good roommate overall, like, besides the panic attacks. And then also, I guess, like, the issues could be resolved in different ways. Like, we could figure something out. Me and Mabel would vibe. Like, we would vibe. And also, just for context, these scenarios I'm mostly doing after if they get out of Pertho type thing. So, basically, this is, like, if they get out. Like, how they would be as a roommate. With all their trauma. So, take with that what you will. So, the next roommate we have is Atlas. Oh my gosh, poor Atlas. You would not want to... Okay, I say you don't want to room with Atlas. I say it. But at the same time, I would love to room with Atlas. But at the same time, okay, so here are some pros. So, first of all, a big pro, I feel like, is he's also very sweet. He's very empathetic. But he's very quiet. So Mabel can hold a conversation. Atlas can hold a conversation if he knows you well, but other than that, it'll kind of, like, just die out. Like, if you're just, like, rooming because you need, like, a place to stay and you don't really know him that well, he's not really gonna talk to you because he just doesn't know what to say. Poor boy. But, yeah, he's kind of, like, nervous. And he's also really nervous and jumpy. So I guess it's more of a con. I keep talking about the cons of Atlas. What are some pros? He's a good cook. That's a big pro. I feel like he'd be a really good cook. I feel like he'd be really good at baking. He would make the best things. And he would probably give them to you as a love language. Honestly, like, yeah, like, this is more after Pertho. Like, I feel like he would learn how to, like, if he gets out, I feel like he would learn how to cook. So, I'm in there. And I feel like he's really good at it, too. Also, another thing, like, let me think. What are some other pros with Atlas? He's pretty introverted. He's pretty sweet. He's not really going to bother you or your stuff. Like, he's just like, whatever. Like, you have your stuff. I have mine. Just, two separate things. And he doesn't bother you. He's also very kind for the most part. Like, he's very sweet. He's very kind. He's very empathetic. He's also, like Mabel, he's introverted, so he's more of a homebody. He's not really going to leave the house unless it's to go to work and come back. He has friends, and he'll go see them sometimes, maybe. He'll sometimes come to the apartment. That's also kind of rare. So yeah, that's more of, like, the pros. I struggle to think of pros, because, like, literally, I only, like, poor Atlas. I think a lot about the cons with Atlas, because that's mostly what I have to write. But he's so sweet. Also, I feel like he'd be really good at comforting. Even if he doesn't know you well, and even if he can't hold up a conversation with you for 5 seconds, he'd be good at comforting you if you were crying. He'd be like, hey, it's okay, like, pat. Okay, so some cons. Probably, like, he can't really hold up a conversation unless he knows you well. Because he's, like, really nervous at first whenever it comes to new people. He's just like, oh, hi. Also, he's severely traumatized. So you'll probably hear him waking up screaming from nightmares, and then when you go in to check on him, he'd act like nothing happened. And then also, you probably walk in on him crying, and he'll pretend it didn't happen. Poor Atlas, I love you. Trying to think, like, he hides everything. Like, he doesn't tell anyone anything, except for maybe some people, like, some close friends of his, but he's not gonna tell you, the person he lives with. But he's very, like, if it's, like, yeah, but he's not gonna tell you anything about his personal life at all. Because no, he won't. So you might walk in on him crying, looking over some old photos, and when you ask if he's okay, he'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Could you close the door on your way out? Honestly, I could see it, okay? But at the same time, he's also kind of lonely, which is really sad. Also, but when it comes to, like, issues, like, if you guys are having issues with each other, he'll point out minor ones. I feel like he kind of, like, do it in that, like, way where you're not really pointing it out, where he's just like, for example, like, if you keep, or it's not a you problem, but if let's just say the stove is broken or something, just like, oh, like, the stove has been smoking recently, have you noticed that? Like, that type of thing. That's how he's gonna bring it up. He's not gonna come out and say, hey, the stove is broken. He'll be like, hey, I've noticed this, is that normal? Even though he knows it's not. That's the way I bring up issues. Okay, because I'll be like, like, for example, like, if I'm, like, if, like, I can't think of an example right now, but, like, I'll do it the same way he does. Like, oh, have you noticed, like, the stove is smoking? And then you'll be like, oh my gosh, like, why, what? So he'll address issues, but he'll do it in a way that doesn't feel like he's addressing the issue. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, that's all with Atlas. Poor boy. I love him. And also, as a disclaimer, never mind, I can't say that. That's a spoiler for book 2. Never mind. I was gonna say something, and I realized I probably shouldn't have said it. So, yeah. And then also, at the same time, he's just... Yeah, but I feel like he's an okay roommate. I mean, besides the fact that he's mostly to himself. Like, honestly, I would like him as a roommate. We would be chill. I feel like we'd be close friends, and we would be chill. We would be pretty chill. I don't think... the only thing I wouldn't like is because I need someone to talk to sometimes, but he's, like, very quiet. And I also like deep conversations, and I guess Atlas likes deep conversations, too. So, also, I guess this could be a pro or a con either way, but Atlas could also, like, talk, like, you won't even know his favorite color, but he'll talk to you about, like, the deepest thing. Not about his past, but he'll talk about, like, some philosophical thing that he found on like, the internet or something, and he'd be like, yeah, I thought this was so deep, and this, and that, and he'd, like, just talk about the quote, and you'd be just sitting here, like, okay. Like, no, that's kind of me, too, though, so I get it. Alright, so now we're gonna move on to Persephone. Like, Lord help whoever's rooming with Persephone. Because I was talking, this is the thing that started this entire video idea, because I was talking with my writing class, and we were talking about Persephone as a roommate for some reason, and I was like, and we were all agreeing she'd be the worst roommate. She would. But I'm gonna give you some pros anyway. So, first of all, she's the exact opposite of the first two I mentioned. She is an extrovert. She is loud and proud. She's, like, confident. If she has an issue with you, she's gonna tell you straight out. Like, for example, I'm gonna go back to the stove is broken. She'd be like, hey, the stove is broken. When are you planning on fixing it? Because I'm not doing it myself. Type thing. So I don't know if that's like that might be a con. I don't know. But she's way too direct. She's very direct. Also, she can be sweet sometimes, but it's like she can be sweet sometimes. I'll say that. She can be sweet sometimes. I'm trying to think. She'll be out of the house a lot. So if you like that, great. She'll probably be out of the house a lot, or she'll be at home working. Like, work is pretty much her life. Like, you'll see that a lot in Exposed, where, like, she's thinking about work. I'm literally realizing this as I'm telling this to you, because I realize she thinks about work. She thinks about two things. 3 things, excuse me. She thinks about Paul, she thinks about work, and she thinks about her adopted son, and that's about it. Okay, she thinks about Paul, work, and Harold. So bad. Like, if you really read the book, you'll see, like, all of her part is just like, oh, work, Paul, Harold, work, Paul, Harold, work, Paul, adopted son. And it's just over and over and over. And it's just like a constant cycle. It is so funny. But that's literally how she's going to be at home. So, it's like, that's literally how she's going to be all the time. She will probably talk about Paul to a nauseating degree, where it'll make you annoyed. She'll also talk about work to a nauseating degree, which will also make you annoyed. And also, to add on to that, she is bipolar. I'm fine. I'm talking more about the cons, and I don't really care. But she's bipolar. So she could be manic one second, be like, hey, we should go to that, to like this thing downtown or whatever. But then the next second, she could be depressed. And she could stay in her room for weeks and not talk to you at all. Do you see what I'm going at here? Or she could be just, like, one moment be, like, really happy and excited, and then the next moment be like, well, anyways, about that, like, whatever. That was nothing. Also, she is insanely organized, which isn't really shown much in this book. It's shown a little bit. But she is pretty organized. I feel like she has a place for everything. She knows where everything goes. So I guess that's a pro, because, like, you'll never lose anything. She'll go in your room and organize your stuff. She will rearrange your things. She will! That, which I guess is more of a con. But, like, if you want something organized, she will do it. She will do it. In a heartbeat. She'd be like, oh, heck yeah, let me rearrange your entire room. Yeah, that might not be fun. Also, she's very narcissistic sometimes. So you'll be hearing a lot about her work and her projects, and she won't ask about you. That's for sure. Trying to think about what else, like, Persephone. I feel like I keep talking about cons, but the cons are, like, she's very confrontational, so, like, even if you, like, accidentally spill water, she's gonna probably yell at you for something. Also, she's very narcissistic sometimes. She's bipolar. She's also severely traumatized, and she's probably gonna talk about her trauma to you with no regret. And she'll talk about Paul a lot to you, a lot. And she'd do a lot of insane things, probably. And she'd probably be very impulsive. That's another one. So you're going to have to keep her out of situations that could possibly harm everybody. And she has friends. Oh, she has a lot of friends, I feel like. You don't see them in book 1, but you'll see them in book 2. And this is kind of a spoiler, but I don't care. But she has a lot of friends. Those friends will be coming over at random times every night. I keep talking about Persephone being a bad roommate because that's all I can think of her being a bad roommate. But to add to, like, another pro, she's very confident in herself. So I guess you won't have to worry with all the depression issues. Which I guess you will still have to worry with depression issues with the bipolar. I don't know. Yeah, but she's basically that work-obsessed roommate. With bipolar disorder. Sorry, I'm realizing this as I'm telling you this, because I'm realizing, I don't know. It's really funny, though. So, Persephone, for me, is probably, like, the worst roommate. She's my nightmare. Even though I love her, she's my favorite character. But probably because she's the opposite of me and she stays far away. Okay, but she's fine. She's an okay. I feel like there's some good sides and some bad sides, even though I can't really think of any other good sides besides that she's confident and she's gonna tell you what she wants and how to get it type thing. Oh, and I feel like she'd be good at finance. Don't ask me why she'd be good at finance. And she'd also, like, here's a pro. I have a pro. Okay, she is loyal to a fault. So even if she doesn't ask about your day, even if she, like, yells at you for spilling some water, if somebody comes after you, she will come after them. She will get boxing gloves. She will get daggers, knives, and she'll be like, okay, where do they live? I will kill them for you. So she'll be your personal assassin. So take with that what you will. I feel like she's very loyal to people that she cares about. So if she cares about you, she'll be your personal assassin and swear her undying loyalty. So take with that what you will. So she's kind of like a lost golden retriever. That's okay. Poor Persephone. Okay, so that's Persephone. And then we move on to Harold. Harold's kind of similar to Persephone, except he's, like, a very, very introverted guy. This is more of, like, Harold as an adult, because in the book, he's a 13-year-old kid, but this is more as, like, a 20-year-old, I guess. So Harold as a 20-year-old, he's very organized, so pros, he's very organized, he's more to himself, he's gonna, like, kind of leave you alone. He's gonna not touch your stuff, because he's like, I don't want anybody touching my stuff, so why would I touch yours? And also, I guess he's kind of sweet sometimes. He'd just be kind of annoyed with you most of the time, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. He'd just be annoyed that he has to share his space with another human being. He's just like, can you just leave? Like, I don't want to be here, and I'm sure you don't either. He's kind of condescending. I feel like he'd be condescending in his head. He wouldn't tell you any of that. Like, he'd be thinking it. He'd be like, I want to leave. I want my own house. Just leave me alone. Why do I have to do this? And I feel like the only reason he'd room with anybody is because he has to. So he probably has financial problems. I don't know. And also, he's also severely traumatized, so he will have nightmares, but he's not gonna scream like Atlas, like his own brother. He's not gonna, like, really make a fuss about it. He'll mention, but the thing is also he'll mention his trauma, like, really, like, blatantly, which I think is really funny. Like, for example, this is not a true instance, but, like, for example, he'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I don't know, but, like, oh, yeah, this happened, and it's, like, the most traumatic thing you've ever heard, and you're just gonna look at him and be like, are you okay? Do you need therapy? And Harold would be like, yeah, I went to therapy. I don't know. But Harold, I feel like, would be an avid therapy goer, so I think he'd be fine. Also, he's obsessed with studying. I feel like he'd be very scholarly, which I guess we kind of see in book 1 a little bit. But he's pretty scholarly, so he'd be reading texts a lot. He'd be, like, mostly having a a textbook in front of him most of the time, just reading or taking notes or something. So he's very scholarly. He's probably in college. That's probably why he's rooming with you, to be quite honest. And yeah, like, you know, he's usually stuck in his studies. He's not going to really have a conversation with you. The things he will have a conversation with you about is about the studies that he's working on. He'll also, like, ask how your day was, you know. And if you're closer, you'll get into, like, some deep conversations, and he'll probably reveal his trauma in the least, respectful way possible. He'd just be like, yeah, this happened, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore, even though it's, like, the most traumatizing thing you've ever heard. Some cons would probably be, like Persephone, this isn't a con, but like Persephone, he's not confrontational, but he's going to tell you when something's up. Like, for example, I'm going to go back to the stove is broken. You're like, hey, the stove is broken. Should we get somebody in here to fix it? Like, that type of thing. That's what he's going to say to you. He's not going to be like, I don't want to fix it. Like, you do it. Or anything like that. He's just like, yeah, do you want to get somebody in here to fix it? Because I just noticed it was smoking a lot and whatever. Okay, so he'll bring up issues, and he'll try and work on communication. Also, so I guess that's more of a pro. And also, like Persephone, he's very organized. I think I already said that. Some cons to having Harold as a roommate. Probably, I honestly can't think of any. He's pretty good for a roommate. He's pretty good. I would say, like, he'd be kind of annoyed at your presence if you interrupt him. He wouldn't, like, say anything. Like, he's the silent judger. He'll judge you silently. Like, my friend pointed this out. He's like, hey, he's the type to, like, not care if you murdered someone, but he's the type to judge your fashion sense. Which I can see, like, she said this to me, like, a year ago, and I'm like, and I realized that's true, because he's like, oh, you killed someone, fine, but you were wearing socks with sandals. So, like, expect that silent judging mentality. Like, you see that a lot in book 1. So you just expect him to be silently judging you all the time. Just all the time. Yeah, and then also he's coffee obsessed, and he's probably going to be up at 2 a.m. with a caffeine addiction. And that's more of a 20-year-old Harold thing, not a 13-year-old Harold thing. He hasn't discovered his love for caffeine yet. That's what I say. Okay, the last character is Trinity. Trinity's pretty cool for a roommate. Oh, and Harold, like, I think he'd be an okay roommate. I feel like he's the best roommate out of all of them, just because, like, we would be chill. Like, honestly, he's, like, my spirit animal in some ways. Like, I'm not silently judgy, but the thing is that, like, I feel like a lot of his personality traits, like, he has this very sarcastic humor, which is very much how I am with my humor, so I can relate to Harold. Lastly, we have Trinity. Some pros, she's pretty extroverted, but she's not going to bother you with it. She'll probably try and drag you out of the house to, like, get some sunlight when she notices that you, like, maybe if you're depressed or something, she'd drag you outside and be like, hey, listen, we're going to go to this place. Come on, come with me. You know, she tried to get your spirits up. She's also she's empathetic, but also she's going to have that tough love mentality, which I guess could be a good or a bad thing, depending how you take it. So, like, sometimes, if she sees you're down in the dumps, she'd be like, get up, go for a walk. You're coming with me. You know, that type of thing. And then also, but when she's upset, she's not going to tell you. Like, she's going to be suffering. You could tell that she's upset, but she's not going to tell you she's upset. Like, for example, like, if she, like, has a nightmare or traumatic experience or something, she'd be just, like, just sitting there. And then you'd be like, hey, like, you seem a little off. Are you okay? And she'd be like, I'm fine. Leave me alone. She has a very short temper, which I guess is more of a con. Like, she'll yell, and then she'll realize, like, oh my gosh, I fricked up. So she'd come up to you and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have yelled at you. I shouldn't have said X, Y, and Z. I'm really sorry. She's very messy. So I guess that's, like, also a con. She's very messy. I feel like she just have all her stuff all over. She's very creative, too, so she'll have all her stuff all over. Also, I feel like her trauma would, like, affect her a lot, meaning that she's very wary all the time. She's, like, kind of hyper-vigilant. She'll be up at, like, random hours of the night just wandering around the apartment, probably, just, like, because she doesn't know what else to do. She's a loud phone talker, I feel like, so take with that what you will. That's probably a con. Also for Trinity, she's very sweet. I feel like she doesn't seem sweet. She's kind of like that tough love, but when you get to know her, she'll be like, hey, listen, like, sit down. What do you need? Like, you look X, Y, and Z. Like, you know. Also, she's a horrible cook. Exact opposite of Atlas. Horrible cook, cannot cook, will burn everything. So you're gonna have to do everything for her, or you're getting takeout. And also, again, she's very, like her sister and like Harold, she's very confrontational about issues. So she'll be like, hey, listen, I have this issue with this. Can we talk about it? So she's not going to be very toxic about it, or she might have it, or it's either that, or she's going to let it fester because she's afraid to come to you about it. And then once you do it one more time, she's going to scream at you. So it's either one. There is no in between. Yeah, but she has a short temper. She has a lot of mood swings, I feel like, but she tries to keep them down, but it does not work. And yeah, I can't really think of anything else for Trinity. Like, what else is she like really? I can't believe this is almost a 30-minute video of me just talking and talking. I think I just love my characters too much. That's honestly what it is. Yeah, I love my characters too much. But Trinity. Yeah, but she's very sweet. And it's about as long as I thought it would be, too, because I'm trying to give 5 minutes for each character, so we're about there. So I'm trying to think of, like, anything else with Trinity that... her love language, I feel like... Oh, and you cannot touch her. Do not touch Trinity. If you try to hug her, she will punch you. She will. She does not like anybody touching her unless she gives explicit permission, or if it's somebody that she really trusts. Her roommate is someone she does not really trust, so stay away from Trinity. And she's very claustrophobic. So, those two things I feel like would be big cons, especially if you're a big hugger. She would punch you. She would. Like, if you come in for a hug, if she's crying or something, and she's trying to, like, hide her tears, you go in to hug her, she uppercut you in, like, a second. So, I guess that's a huge con, because you probably end up with a bloody nose. So, just know, do not touch Trinity, or else she will kill you. In your sleep. And then also, I guess she'd also mention her trauma. Like, Harold, she mentioned her trauma very casually. Like, for example, she'd be like, oh, yeah, like, blah, 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 blah happened, like, a couple years ago. This reminds me of that, and it's fine. And you're like, girl, what? So, yeah, take with that what you will. And I think that's about it. So let me know who would be the best roommate to you. For me, it'd probably be Atlas or Harold. My heart. And then Trinity, I feel like, would be a good roommate too, if I don't get on her bad side. And Mabel. Anybody but Persephone. Persephone will not be a good roommate, even though she's my favorite character. So yeah, let me know what you think. My throat is starting to hurt because I've been talking for 27 minutes straight. And I will talk to you later. Thank you so much. So glad I made this, and see you in another video.